Hello, welcome to Carissa Explains It All. I'm Carissa, I explain it all. And in today's episode, we are picking up where we last left off in my story. My last few videos have been about burning out at work and just pushing past my boundaries. I didn't have any boundaries at the time, but pushing past what I was capable of giving at work and just kind of reacting to my younger version self. I am now 6 years down the line, having done a whole spiritual, emotional journey, crazy stuff, and I am going back and retelling my story of everything I experienced. And this is going to be the last video of this particular series about burnout, because I am going to start a new series that picks up at the exact same part in our story, but I'm going to call it something else. It's going to be called The Diary of an Alchemist, because that part of the journey really focuses on the inner alchemy, all the inner things that went on. They weren't so much about the external events, but rather the internal things. So if you're here watching this video is going to talk about the 6 months in between when I quit my job and then when I went back to that job. Basically, I had some savings, some money savings saved up, and was able to take a break from work. I fully did not expect to go back to work. I had put in my 2 weeks and I stayed the 2 weeks, but when I left, I was like, that's it, I'm done and never come back to this company. And then, 6 months later, after I'd had time to like breathe and I had room and space to like kind of just recenter, recalibrate, get energy and life back, I ended up going back to that job because I needed money, and I hadn't spent any of that time looking for, actually I did look, I applied for other jobs, but I don't have you guys ever felt this, like when you're like, God, I hate the job that I'm in, but the idea of applying for another job and interviewing and like trying to big yourself up to someone else, like prove yourself to someone else, and you're like, that literally holds no interest to me. Like, I am past the point of caring about proving myself to a new employer. Like, I don't know. But that's kind of where I was at. And yeah. So anyways, to pick up from where we left off, I had quit the job. I was done. What followed for the next 3 days, I was in a state of complete numbed out voidness. Like, I could not feel or sense anything. There was no energy flowing through me. And so I spent those 3 days just kind of like in a state of shock, I think. Where I had no energy, and I basically played this video game on my phone called Alta's Adventure. It's a really cute little game. Like, you're a llama that's like skiing different ski slopes, and I was using this phrase that Tom Bilyeu of Impact Theory had said about like regulating your nervous system, and I think he said that he had used like video games to do that, like when things that make you like really anxious, but then you're aware of the fact that you're getting really anxious, so you calm yourself back down. So that's kind of what I was doing with Alta's Adventure. Like when I was trying to like jump over rocks or whatever, like the anxiety would climb and I would like recognize it and like soothe it and like calm it back down. So I was using it as like a regulatory exercise. Very different from like anything. It wasn't like breathing or grounding or anything like that, but it's just the tool that I had at the time, and that's something that I really encourage you guys to use. Like, do, even if it's weird or different and no one's like recommended it before, if you find something that works for you to calm your nervous system, do that thing. Who cares, whatever it is. For me, it was Alta's Adventure, being a llama skiing over slopes, and for you it might be something different, but that's what I was doing for like 3 days after I quit my job. And then it kind of like started to set in that like, I don't have this thing looming over me. Like, I had been, in the workforce for, 10 years, and at that job that I just quit, working the 40, 50, 60, 70-hour weeks sometimes, I had been in the grind for so long that I forgot that life doesn't have to be a grind, or that you could experience life not being a grind. It's really wild when you're in like a pressure chamber and you get out of it. It's a weird reorientation back to like normalcy, and like that you were in a box and you didn't even realize it. So I was kind of like normalizing back to reality, and then I was like, oh my God, I can literally do whatever I want. And like it's so weird, but the only other time in my life where I had experienced this like freedom to do whatever I want was the summer after senior year in high school. And like, you're done, you've graduated, you don't know what that next chapter is yet, but it's like set in stone. Like, I was gonna go off to college and I was working a job through the summer to earn money. And like everything was lined up and ready to go. So I got to coast and like hang out with friends, and it just felt like freedom. That was the most amount of freedom that I had felt. And then after that, of course, there was college and working a job while I was in college, and then after college working a job, and it just like it was always a grind again after that. And I just hadn't realized like you could feel free even as an adult, and like your life could be about feeling fun and freedom and space and just so many different things that I had been feeling for the most of my life. So with that, I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I was like, I could do anything, but honestly, I just want to go back to my hobbies that I had before, which in the previous videos I talked about like how much I researched and read books, and like I had built a mind palace. I don't remember if I think I mentioned it, but I don't think I went into it. But I had built a mind palace, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna keep going with that because that was really fun. I'd go into like a meditative space and like construct the mind palace and like had different rooms. I'd already constructed it. Now I had like rooms that I was going to detail and like put, what I wanted to do was file away the most important facts that I'd gotten from impact theory from different episodes with different people that Tom Bilyeu interviewed, and like their most like not popular, famous, but like the quotes that stood out to me the most that I wanted to remember. I was going to file those away in like a book or a cassette tape or something within these specific rooms, within these certain shelves in my mind palace. And so that's the project that I set out on. I'm super nerdy, in case you can't tell already. Um, but basically, like, because my memory is not, I hate even saying my memory is not great, because when you say something that's limiting about yourself, then you are actually limiting yourself. But it has not been the best, and I have not worked on making it any better. So I take excellent notes because of this, because I want somewhere to reference, and I have a good memory for where I've stored those notes. So I wanted those notes to be accessible in my mind. So I thought, okay, well, instead of having to go through my journals and find those specific things, why don't I just file those within my mind? And then it's like memory, but kind of a long way around memory. I don't know. So anyways, I decided to do that. I was playing around with like memorizing sequences of numbers. I think his name's Anthony Metivier, something like that. He's really cool, and like I reached out to him. We talked a little bit about Mind Palace, and he has a really cool channel about building Mind Palace and all these techniques and stuff. So I was kind of getting into that. What else did I get into? I had signed up for like a year prior. I had signed up for like this academy of like entrepreneurs, and so I was still kind of like, I'm gonna figure out how to like be an entrepreneur, and I didn't have anything that I was gonna do. I didn't have anything to sell, so I don't really know what I was doing with that, but it felt like hope and moving in the direction that I wanted to. So I was still engaged in like those conference calls, and this was on Skype. This was before the whole Zoom thing, if you guys remember Skype. Yeah, so I would meet up on those things. It was kind of like the only community I had at the time. Yeah, so what else? I'm trying to recall from memory, because I don't think I really journaled that time period. I just kind of took notes on a lot of the things that I was learning about. We were living in this house with 2 other roommates. Because I mentioned in the previous video, we had moved to another place, and it's a very expensive place. Area. It was the Bay Area in California. It was extremely expensive, especially if you're living off your savings and not pulling in an income. So my husband was still working. We got 2 roommates. One was a former coworker of mine, and another one was a close friend of ours. So, yeah, we had that place. It was pretty cool. We had rented a house because we had not. Yeah, that was the first house we ever rented. And we wanted the space for our little kitties, our cats, to have space to roam, because they'd been cooped up in apartments, and one of them was a super outdoorsy cat, and we just wanted her to have the best things in life, and she really wanted to be outside. So we got that place. Trying to think. I think this will be kind of a short video, because honestly, that summer was just about space and grace. It was like, I have space and room to breathe and to be a human being and to figure out who I am. This is a big part. Actually, this just came to me. Who am I outside of my work identity? If I am not a worker in a company, who the fuck am I? Sorry. I haven't decided if I'm going to swear or not on this channel, but sometimes it's just punctuates, like sometimes you need it. So I didn't have any sense of who I was outside of working for to achieve and to receive validation for those achievements. Yeah, so that was kind of a separating, like, I can be someone who is not tied up in a work identity, you know? And so I was exploring that. I was going to like festivals. There's a Renaissance fair, the NorCal Renaissance Fair. It's like a 6-week long event. Not during the week, but like on weekends. So 6 weekends in a row. Very fun, very, very fun. I went to that. I went to the Scottish Games. I went to the Garlic Festival. I hung out with friends that I hadn't, like, I had not prioritized social life because, of course, I wanted to get ahead. And if I just figure out how to make enough money, then I can enjoy life. And then that's when I can socialize. And it was always in the future. And so finally I was like, I'm actually gonna start living this summer, like living and like meeting up with people, and it was just, it felt very good, you know. I was like being a normal human being and kind of letting go of these limiting beliefs about like who I needed to be and being a part of the workplace in order to make my life feel more comfortable. So yeah, so I did those things. What else? What else? What else? This may seem really random, but I got a bunch of candles. They're these like really, they're just like the best scented candles ever. And it was like a housewarming gift from my husband to me because at his work, they sell these candles and I just love the scent of them. So he bought me the whole collection. There was like 10 of them or something. And the reason why I bring it up is because these, you know, like scents have such a big play on our memory. And I burned these candles that summer, just like throughout the days and when I was doing different activities. And so now I still have those candles, you know, they're not all gone, or some of them I've replenished now. But the scents, smelling those scents brings back those feelings of like freedom, not worrying about the future. I don't know, just something about that time. And like I was using different scents to like play with different things in my mind palace. So I was starting to deepen my understanding of my mind palace and creating an area of the subconscious where I would actually go downstairs into this like basement area, and this was my subconscious. This is where I was going to instill different values within my character that I wanted to play up, a sense of identity of like, who am I? Like, you know, I want to be a steward of consciousness, like just these different like big meta level I don't know, pieces of identity that I wanted to ingrain. So I was going into the subconscious. I don't know how subconscious it was because I was still conscious, you know, like I was like consciously creating, so I don't know how much it was in the subconscious, but in my mind, I was creating like a basement area into the subconscious where I could store these different memories. And I was creating like this panic room, this idea of like, you know, in Sherlock Holmes, or like Sherlock, the BBC's version of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, there's a scene where he goes into his mind palace, like he's just been shot by a bullet and he goes into shock and he goes into his mind palace and he is able to like recover and bring himself back out of a coma, or I think he dies or something. And like he's able to bring himself back up. And so I wanted to create that, like a panic room where if my body was going into shock, I would go to this panic room. And so I'd light this candle, and this candle, the scent would like trigger awareness that you are not conscious right now. Like you need to wake up. You're like, you need to come out of this, like quickly come out of your subconscious state or whatever. I don't know. And so I told my husband, if I'm ever in a coma, you need to light this candle because the scent will trigger something. I don't know. I was playing with it. You know, like, you know how like some people like play with like creating things in the physical world? I play with creating things in my internal world. So, you know, it's weird, it's different, but it's me. So yeah, so I was playing with that. That's why I brought up candles, is because it had a significant role in what I was doing with my mind palace at the time. I was getting out into nature more. I was just grounding, not really into grounding because I wasn't into anything spiritual at that time. But I was about to. So I will conclude kind of this video because it rambles a bit. I will kind of conclude this with like, just before I became aware of spirituality and stuff, I did a meditation. It was kind of like mind palace derivative. I don't know if that's the right word, but I went outside in my backyard and I sat on a lawn chair, and it was kind of shady outside, but I put a blindfold on anyways, and I put noise canceling Bose headphones on, and I listened to this song. I want to say Lucas King, if that's I don't know if I have the name right, but there's someone who does like these beautiful melodic covers of Star Wars songs and other things. But I was listening to one that was like of the Force, the song "The Force" from Star Wars, and I was listening to this cover, and like I went into this place, and it was. Do you remember in Stranger Things where 11, I think, it's been forever since I saw Stranger Things. I only finished like through season 2, maybe 3, I don't remember. But you know where she goes into that space where it's all black, it's all dark, it's like the void or something, I think. And it's like, it's all black, but there's like water on the floor, but it's also black. I went into that kind of a space. And and this was an exploratory meditation. So I just went into the space, and what I saw there was a tree, and it was really interesting. I walk up to the tree, and the tree is it's all bare branches, and it's a trunk, and there are only branches on one side. The other side is completely smoothed off, completely rounded off. There are no branches coming out of one side of the tree, and the other side of the tree has tons of branches, but they're dead. There's no leaves on it. And I was like, huh. And that was it. That was the meditation. It was weird. It was different. It was like, no, that's cool. I don't know what that means. I know what it means now, but at the time I was like, okay, that's just different, right? So fast forward a couple weeks, I'm playing with fashion. I'm a Libra. I enjoy fashion. I love aesthetics. I love beautiful aesthetics. I love like harmonizing and making my room and my house feel beautiful and whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I was like playing with fashion, ordering clothes off Amazon, trying it on. You know, Amazon clothes never fit or look right. So I returned like half of them because I just didn't like them. Where are we anyways in the year? I think this is late 2018. Yes. So we're getting into the like August, September, October area of 2018. And so I'm playing with fashion, and then I'm starting to play with ideas of like, what is hypnosis? What is the chakra system? And I just remember being so scared to touch like what is the chakra system, which is ridiculous now that I'm just like a billion light years away from that, like deep into like crazy ass shit. But like I was so scared to get into it because it was woo woo and it was like not rational, not logical, and so it was not okay. I grew up in a household where we only think and logic and rationalize our way through life. We don't feel our feelings, and if we feel them, we rationalize them very quickly and get to problem solving. But to validate our feelings, no, we don't do that. To value feelings, no, we don't do that. You know, like, there was so many blocks that I had, and I felt, you know, like within my household too, there was pretty deep conditioning, and so I felt like I was like betraying the confidence of my parents by venturing into the woo woo. Like, it was so off limits for me. Ridiculous. I'm a huge proponent now of deconditioning and like tossing away anything that has conditioned you to be not yourself, like because I was so like deeply entrenched in being conditioned. So anyways, at that time it was so scary to like even like Google search what is the chakra system, and what came up was, I'm sure other things came up, but what stood out to me was there was this video by this woman named Teal Swan. And if you're familiar with her work, she is very, very well known in this spiritual, emotional healing community, and for better or for worse, because there's a lot of good and bad things said about her. But for honestly, a lot of her work has been deeply beneficial as far as like helping me to come closer to me, and to understand myself at a very deep level. And so she had a video on chakras, and I watched that and I was like, that's so interesting. And I feel like something stood out about like energy and sensing energy. And I knew that I could sense energy, but I did not identify as an empath or highly sensitive person yet. I don't know if those words were within my vocabulary or awareness, but again, emotion, feeling, that stuff's just like off limits. We don't talk about that. It's not valid. In my mind at the time, it was not valid. And how old was I? I want to say I was 27, 28. I can't remember, and I'm not going to try to figure it out right now, but somewhere around there, which is just crazy to be that deeply conditioned still at that age. But yeah, so I watched this chakra video and then I was like, okay, I'm curious. Like I will never stop following what my curiosity is like curious about. Like nothing is off limits to search. Because why? Why? It's just like it doesn't hurt to find out things, you know? And if that ends up changing your mind or changing your perspective, well then so be it. You know, like it's all growth, you know, it's all good. So as long as you are more empowered for it, right? As long as it's not taking away your power. But yeah, so I think that's probably where I'm gonna leave off this video because from here on out, I'm gonna need my notes, my journals, because then things get really intense. As far as like this video goes and like kind of the part of my story, it was a summer of expanding out to like it wasn't even like expanding beyond my limits. It was expanding into a normalcy, like a sense of it's okay to breathe. It's okay to have fun days. It's okay to not be like caught up in a work identity. It's okay to socialize. It's okay to be happy now and not delay it or prolong it into the future. It's okay to explore what you want to explore. It's okay to deep dive into things that may be unusual. Yeah, just a lot of just like just breathing space. I feel like that's what that time period in my life was. And so in the next video, we're going to switch into a different series. So this is going to be a different playlist on my YouTube channel called The Diary of an Alchemist. And I did not call myself an alchemist till probably like right about now in life, which is we're 6-7 years later. Because now I can look back and be like, oh, all the things that I did, that's what alchemy is. Like soul alchemy. Yeah, but where was I going? God, I just lost my train of thought. Focus. So this video was about expansion. Next video is going to be about the Diary of an Alchemy. And this is where I get really, really intense with my journaling, self-reflective work. All my journals up until this point, because I did still write a lot, but I took notes about the external things that I was learning and incorporating into myself. The next phase of this journey, which would be from this point in our story up until right about now. I mean, I still do this, but like, I feel like that segment of journey was an internal reflection, a turning inward and understanding self deeply. And then this current year in 2024, I have kind of turned that lens to be more external again. I'm starting to look at my environment and re-engage with the world while I'm still doing. I think it's just a healthy ritual of to journal and to reflect about yourself and where you're at, but as is eating good nutritious meals, as is exercising, as is meditating. Like these are just good hygiene to have. And so my journaling this year has been more hygiene rather than deep reflection into the subconscious. So that next series that I'm going to do, The Diary of an Alchemist, is going to be about those 6 years of internal reflection and everything that I came up against. And the reason why I'm doing these is because if any of you are doing a self-reflective, shadow work especially, journey, a spiritual journey, hang on, I've got a list of like all the things that all the different topics that I covered within this time period, but reparenting, emotional healing, inner child work, deconditioning, meditating. If you do energy work, if you're an empath, if you're highly sensitive, if you are sorting through the masculine and feminine polarities within yourself, being Delulu, timeline shifting, frequency, vibrational law of attraction, young individuation, work with your HDA, just any kind of duality merging, anything like that, anything metaphysical, all that stuff is stuff that I go through in the next 6 years after this chapter, after this summer of breathing. And so, yeah, so if you're interested, join me over on that playlist for The Diary of an Alchemist, as I reflect on my journals, on my internal work. So anyways, thanks for being here, guys. As always, I am Carissa. I explain it all. And thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.